The TSA line at JFK was a nightmare. Delayed flights, holiday crowds, 3 security lanes closed because of staffing issues. And Rebecca Ashford, billionaire CEO, board member of 6 companies, woman whose time was literally worth thousands of dollars per hour, was stuck behind a man who couldn't figure out how to empty his pockets. "Sir, you need to remove everything," the TSA agent said for the 3rd time. "Belt, shoes, wallet, phone." The man fumbled, dropped his boarding pass, picked it up with shaking hands. He was maybe 40, military short hair, wearing a yellow sweatshirt that had seen better days, and jeans that didn't quite fit right anymore, like he'd lost weight recently, fast, the kind of weight loss that came from stress, not choice. Rebecca checked her watch. She had 17 minutes to make her flight, 17 minutes to get through security, get to gate C-47 and board before they closed the doors. She was flying to London for a merger negotiation that couldn't be rescheduled. Billions were on the line. And this man couldn't empty his pockets. "Sir," the TSA agent said again, more firmly, "you're holding up the line." The man nodded, tried again, but his hands were shaking so badly he couldn't get his belt unbuckled. Rebecca felt rage building, the cold, precise rage of someone whose entire life was optimized for efficiency and who couldn't understand why other people couldn't do the same. "Are you serious?" Rebecca snapped, stepping forward. Her voice cut through the crowd noise, sharp, impatient. "It's not complicated. Belt off, shoes off, pockets empty. A child could do this. What is your problem?" The man looked at her. His eyes were dark, haunted, and he said nothing. "I have a flight to catch, an important flight, and you're standing here like you've never been through airport security before. Move faster or get out of the line." Still, he said nothing, just looked at her with those haunted eyes and went back to fumbling with his belt. Someone behind Rebecca muttered, "Lady, chill out, he's trying." "Trying isn't enough," Rebecca said coldly. "Competence is the minimum standard. If you can't handle basic airport procedures, stay home." The man finally got his belt off, his shoes, emptied his pockets into the gray bin, and Rebecca saw what he'd been carrying, a small jewelry box, old, worn, the kind that held something precious. He placed it carefully in the bin. His hands were still shaking. Rebecca pushed past him through the metal detector, made her flight with 3 minutes to spare, collapsed into her first-class seat and immediately opened her laptop to review merger documents. She didn't think about the man again until 6 hours later when her plane landed in London and she discovered her luggage had been rerouted to Frankfurt. Standing in Heathrow's lost baggage office, exhausted and furious, Rebecca heard a voice behind her. "Miss Ashford?" She turned. The man from TSA stood there. Same yellow sweatshirt, same haunted eyes. And he was holding her laptop bag, the one she'd left in the overhead compartment in her rush to deplane. "You left this," he said quietly. "I grabbed it before they cleared the plane. Thought you might need it." Rebecca stared. You were on my flight?" "Same flight, different class." He handed her the bag. "Your laptop's in there, and your phone charger. And," he paused, "your emergency medication, the EpiPen. It was in the side pocket. You should keep that with you, not in overhead storage, just in case." He knew about her bee allergy, had seen her EpiPen and understood its importance, had brought her the bag because it contained things she needed to survive. "Thank you," Rebecca managed. Thank you." He nodded, turned to leave. "Wait," Rebecca called. "I'm sorry, at TSA. I was terrible to you. You were struggling and I made it worse. I'm sorry." "You weren't right," the man said. His voice was flat, empty. "I was slow, incompetent, holding up the line. You were right to be angry." "No," Rebecca insisted. "I wasn't right. I was cruel. And She stopped. "Can I buy you a coffee, as an apology?" The man studied her for a long moment. Then, "I have 2 hours before my connecting flight. Coffee sounds okay." They sat in a Heathrow cafe, Rebecca with her laptop bag, the man with his small jewelry box, which he kept touching, checking, making sure it was still there.
"I'm Rebecca," she said. "Rebecca Ashford." "I know," the man replied. "I looked you up after security. Wanted to know who'd yelled at me. Billionaire CEO, Hayes Technologies. You've been on Forbes lists, built your company from your father's startup, worth $4.2 billion. You're impressive." "And you are?" "Nobody impressive," he said. Just a veteran trying to get somewhere important." "Where?" The man's hands tightened on the jewelry box. "To my daughter. I'm going to see my daughter." Rebecca waited, sensed there was more. "I haven't seen her in 3 years," the man continued. His voice was breaking now, barely holding together. Not since my wife died, and I fell apart. PTSD from deployment, grief. I couldn't take care of Emma, couldn't function. And my in-laws, they took her, got temporary custody, said I was unstable, unsafe, and they were right. I was. But now, he touched the box again. Now I'm better, and I'm bringing her this, her mother's jewelry, the pieces Sarah wanted Emma to have. I'm flying to Chicago to see her, just for 2 hours. That's all they'll allow. 2 hours, after 3 years. Rebecca felt something crack in her chest. The jewelry box at TSA, that's why you couldn't... I was terrified I'd drop it, or they'd confiscate it, or I'd mess up and miss my flight and lose my 2 hours with Emma. So I was slow and shaking, and you were right to be angry. I was holding everyone up because I couldn't handle something simple." "I wasn't right," Rebecca said. Her voice was fierce now. "I was wrong. I judged you without knowing anything. I saw incompetence when I should have seen someone carrying more pain than I could imagine." "Most people carry pain," the man said quietly. "You just can't always see it. Doesn't mean it's not there." Rebecca thought about that, about the hundreds of people she interacted with daily, employees, colleagues, strangers in airport lines. How many of them were carrying invisible weight? How many had she judged without seeing? "What's your name?" Rebecca asked. Daniel Foster." "Daniel," Rebecca repeated. "Tell me about Emma. Tell me about your daughter." And he did. For 1 hour and 50 minutes, while their flights boarded and departed without them, Daniel Foster told Rebecca Ashford about Emma, about Sarah, about the life he'd lost and the life he was trying to rebuild. And Rebecca listened, really listened. For the first time in years, she stopped optimizing and just heard someone's story. When Daniel finally left to catch a later flight, Rebecca sat alone in the cafe and made a decision. She was going to help. Not because she felt guilty, though she did. Not because she wanted recognition, though her ego liked being heroic. But because Daniel Foster saved her laptop bag and her EpiPen without expecting anything. Had carried his wife's jewelry through airport security with shaking hands. Had loved his daughter enough to fight through PTSD and grief and 3 years of separation for 2 hours. That was strength. Real strength. The kind money couldn't buy. And Rebecca Ashford was going to use her considerable resources to make sure Daniel Foster got more than 2 hours. Subscribe to Becca's Stories for powerful daily narratives about the pain people carry silently, the judgments we make too quickly, and the moments that teach us that moral strength has nothing to do with wealth.
Rebecca missed her London merger meeting, called her CFO from Heathrow and said there was a family emergency, which was technically true, just not her family. Instead, she booked a flight to Chicago, found Daniel's connecting flight information through methods that were probably borderline illegal but definitely effective when you had money and connections. Learned that he was flying to O'Hare, renting a car, driving 2 hours to Springfield where Emma lived with her maternal grandparents. Rebecca hired a private investigator, not to stalk, she was very clear about that, but to understand, to learn Daniel's full story so she could help properly. What she learned broke her. Daniel Foster, 40, Marine Corps veteran, 3 tours in Iraq, Purple Heart, honorable discharge after roadside IED killed 3 of his unit and left Daniel with traumatic brain injury and PTSD. Met Sarah Chen in physical therapy,
married 2 years later, had Emma 6 months after that. Life was good for 7 years. Then Sarah died. Ovarian cancer, stage 4 by the time they caught it. 18 months from diagnosis to death. Daniel was Sarah's primary caregiver through it all, watching his wife disappear, trying to be strong for Emma, who was 9 and didn't understand why Mommy was getting smaller and sicker, and why Daddy cried in the garage where he thought she couldn't hear. After Sarah died, Daniel fell apart. PTSD that he'd managed for years suddenly unmanageable. Flashbacks, panic attacks, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't function. Emma would come home from school and find him on the couch, staring at nothing. Once he forgot to pick her up. She waited 3 hours before the school called her grandparents. Sarah's parents, Margaret and James Chen, filed for emergency custody, said Daniel was unstable, that Emma wasn't safe. The court agreed. Temporary custody granted. 6 months, then reassess. Daniel went to therapy, got on medication, joined a veterans support group, did everything he was supposed to do. But the court kept extending the Chen's custody. 6 months became a year became 3. Daniel saw Emma twice a year, supervised visits, 2 hours each, never enough. But he kept fighting, kept showing up to therapy, kept taking medication, kept building evidence that he was stable now, that he could be Emma's father again. And the jewelry box? That was Sarah's dying wish. Give Emma my mother's ring when she's old enough. Tell her I love her. Tell her... Sarah hadn't finished the sentence, had died before she could. Daniel had been carrying that ring for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. Today was Emma's 12th birthday. The visit was his birthday gift to her. 2 hours, and Sarah's ring. Rebecca read the investigator's report in her hotel room and cried. Actually cried. Something she hadn't done in years. Not at her father's funeral, not when her company almost went bankrupt. But for Daniel Foster, a stranger she'd judged and belittled, she cried. Because he was morally larger than she'd ever be, had more strength in his shaking hands than she had in her entire empire, and she'd treated him like he was worthless. Rebecca called her attorney. I need you to look into a custody case. Illinois, Daniel Foster versus Margaret and James Chen. I want to know what it would take to help him regain custody. Money, legal support, whatever. Just find a way. Miss Ashford, her attorney said carefully, this isn't really our area of expertise. Make it your area, and do it quickly. That man has already lost 3 years with his daughter. I won't let him lose more because I'm too slow to help.
Rebecca showed up at the Chen's house in Springfield, uninvited. She knocked, waited, tried to figure out what she was going to say. Margaret Chen answered, mid-60s, tired eyes, the kind of tired that came from raising a granddaughter while grieving your daughter. Can I help you? My name's Rebecca Ashford. I'm a friend of Daniel Foster's. I was hoping to speak with you about Emma. Margaret's expression hardened. Daniel doesn't have friends who show up unannounced, and Emma is with him right now, their supervised visit. You'll have to come back. I know about the visits, Rebecca interrupted. I know he gets 2 hours twice a year. I know you filed for custody after Sarah died. And I know, she took a breath, I know you're good people who did what you thought was right for Emma. But I think we can do better for everyone. Margaret studied her. Who are you really? Someone who judged Daniel without knowing his story, Rebecca admitted. Someone who wants to make that right. Can I come in, please? I promise I'm not here to cause problems. I'm here to help. Margaret let her in. The house was modest, comfortable. Photos of Sarah everywhere, laughing, holding baby Emma, wearing a wedding dress, a shrine to the daughter they'd lost. Sarah was our only child, said Margaret, following Rebecca's gaze. When she died, Emma was all we had left. And Daniel, he was broken. We didn't take Emma to punish him. We took her because she needed stability, because he couldn't provide it, because, her voice cracked, because we couldn't lose Emma too. I understand, said Rebecca, but Daniel is stable now. He's been stable for 2 years,
and he's still only getting 2 hours. The court moves slowly, Rebecca interrupted, especially when there's no one pushing, no one with resources, no one who knows how to navigate the system. But I do, and I can help, if you'll let me. Why? Asked Margaret. Why do you care about Daniel Foster? Rebecca thought about this, about the moment in the airport when she'd seen Daniel as incompetent, when she'd judged him for being slow, when she'd been everything wrong with wealthy people who thought efficiency mattered more than humanity. Because he saved my laptop bag, said Rebecca finally, on a flight where I didn't even know he existed. He saw I'd left something important, and he helped without expecting anything. And I want to be the kind of person who helps back, not because I feel guilty, but because helping is what you do when you see someone fighting silently.
Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then, Emma's birthday is today. Daniel brought her mother's ring. It's beautiful. Emma cried when she opened it. Happy tears. And Daniel, he told her about Sarah, about how much Sarah loved her, about how Sarah's last words were about Emma. And Emma, Margaret's voice broke. Emma asked if she could hug her dad for longer than the supervised visit usually allows. And I said yes, because he's her father, and she loves him. And we've been so focused on protecting her from his instability that we forgot she needs him. Can I see them? Rebecca asked. Just for a moment? Margaret led her to the backyard. Through the window, Rebecca could see a man in a yellow sweatshirt sitting on a bench. Beside him, a girl, 12, dark hair like her mother in the photos, wearing a red jacket. She was leaning against Daniel's shoulder. He was crying, she was crying, and they were holding each other like they'd finally found something they'd lost. Rebecca's chest hurt. This was what she'd almost dismissed. This father and daughter who'd been separated by tragedy and system slowness and her own cruel judgment. I'm going to help, Rebecca said. I'm going to get Daniel's custody back. But, she looked at Margaret, but not by taking Emma away from you. You've raised her for 3 years. You're her family too. She needs all of us. Daniel as her father, you as her grandparents, a bigger family, not a broken one. Margaret looked at Rebecca with something like hope. You can do that? I can try, Rebecca said, and when I try, I usually succeed. That's what money and power are actually good for, not yelling at people in airports, but fixing systems that are broken, helping people who are fighting battles nobody sees. Rebecca hired the best family law attorney in Illinois, filed a motion to modify custody, presented evidence of Daniel's stability, 3 years of therapy records, medication compliance, employment history, he'd been working construction, steady income, letters from his veteran support group, character references. But the real breakthrough came when Rebecca did something unprecedented. She got Margaret and James Chen on Daniel's side. The court will listen to you, Rebecca explained at a meeting in Margaret's living room. Daniel was there too. Emma was at school. You're Emma's custodial guardians. If you tell the judge that Daniel is stable and should have shared custody, they'll listen. But it has to be genuine, not forced. You have to actually believe he's ready. Margaret and James looked at Daniel, at the man who'd loved their daughter, who'd broken after losing her, who'd fought for 3 years to put himself back together. Are you ready? James asked. Really ready? Not just saying what we want to hear? Daniel's hands shook slightly, but his voice was steady. I'm ready. I've been ready for 2 years, but I was scared. Scared you'd think I was trying to take Emma away from you, that I'd disrupt her life again. But Rebecca helped me see Emma doesn't have to choose. She can have all of us, if we work together. What does Emma want? Margaret asked. I want both, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. Emma stood there, still wearing her red jacket, home early from school. She'd heard everything. I want Dad, Emma said. Her voice was shaking but fierce.
I want to live with him sometimes, see him more than twice a year, have breakfast with him, do homework at his house, be his daughter, not just his supervised visit. But I don't, she looked at her grandparents, I don't want to leave you either. You're my family too. You've been there. You raised me when Dad couldn't. I love you. Can't I just have everyone? Why do I have to choose?
Margaret was crying now. You don't have to choose, sweetheart. We wanted to protect you. I know, Emma said, but I'm 12 now. I can handle the truth. And the truth is, Dad has PTSD. He has bad days, but he's getting help. And Grandma, you have bad days too, since Mom died. I hear you crying at night. Everyone in this family has bad days. Why is Dad the only one who's not allowed to be here because of it? Out of the mouths of children, Rebecca thought. Emma had just articulated what the adults had been dancing around for 3 years. Daniel looked at his daughter. I don't want to disrupt your life, Emma. You've been through so much. If staying with Grandma and Grandpa full-time is better for you, stop, Emma interrupted. Stop asking what's better for me like I'm something fragile. I'm not fragile. I'm your daughter, and I want you in my life, really in it, not just 2-hour visits. I want to wake up at your house on weekends. I want you to drive me to school sometimes. I want you to meet my friends and see my science fair projects and be my dad, please. Okay, Daniel whispered. Okay, we'll figure it out, all of us, together. Rebecca watched this family, broken by loss, separated by good intentions, now piecing themselves back together, and felt something she'd never felt before. Not accomplishment, not success, but meaning. The kind that came from using your power to heal instead of destroy, to build bridges instead of walls. The custody hearing was 3 weeks later. Rebecca attended, sat in the back row, watched Daniel testify about his stability, watched Margaret and James testify that Daniel was ready, that Emma needed her father, that they wanted shared custody, Emma with Daniel every other week, staying with grandparents the alternate weeks. The judge granted it, provisional for 6 months, then permanent if things went well. Daniel walked out of the courtroom and immediately called Emma, who was waiting at school with her grandparents. I got you, baby girl. We did it. You're coming home. Rebecca heard Emma's scream of joy through the phone, and she smiled. Actually smiled. Something she hadn't done in months. 2 months after the custody hearing, Rebecca flew back to Chicago. Not for business, just to check in, see how Daniel and Emma were doing. She found Daniel's house, a small rental in a decent neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, a yard where someone had clearly been working on a garden. Emma answered the door, wearing her red jacket and a suspicious expression. You're the lady who helped Dad, Emma said. I am, Rebecca confirmed. Why? Straight to the point. Rebecca respected that. Because I was mean to your dad in an airport, and I wanted to make it right. That's it? Emma asked skeptically. Rich people don't usually help for free. Smart kid, Rebecca observed. You're right, most of us don't. But your dad taught me something. He saved my laptop bag on a plane when he didn't have to, when I'd been terrible to him. And I realized I'd spent 43 years judging people without knowing their stories. Your dad was the first person who made me see that. So I helped because I'm trying to be better, and he's teaching me how. Emma studied her for another moment, then opened the door wider. Dad's in the garage, working on something for me. You can go in. Rebecca found Daniel in the garage, building what looked like a bookshelf. He was wearing the same yellow sweatshirt from the airport. His hands were steady now, no shaking. Rebecca, Daniel said, surprised. What are you doing here? Checking on you. How's the shared custody working? Daniel paused, set down his hammer. It's everything. Emma was here last week, made me breakfast, burned toast, and scrambled eggs that were somehow both runny and overcooked. It was perfect. We watched a movie, she fell asleep on the couch, and I just watched her breathe for an hour, because I could, because she was there, because I'd missed 3 years of watching her breathe, and I wasn't going to miss another moment. I'm glad. Rebecca, Daniel said quietly,
Why are you really here? To apologize, admitted Rebecca. Really apologize. Not the coffee shop apology where I was still being performative, but real. You were carrying pain I couldn't see, and I judged you, made you feel small, made a hard moment harder, and her voice broke. I've done that my whole life. To employees, to people in lines, to anyone who wasn't optimized for my convenience. And you showed me how ugly that is, how cruel. And I wanted to say, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to see people, really see them, the way you saw me, when you saved my laptop bag, when you could have left it and let me suffer consequences. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, you weren't wrong about me. What? At the airport. You weren't wrong. I was slow, incompetent, holding up the line. You just didn't know why. And maybe I needed someone to be angry at me, because I'd been angry at myself for 3 years, for falling apart, for losing Emma, for being the kind of father who couldn't handle his own daughter because his PTSD was too loud. You were angry at me, but I've been angry at me for years, just never at you.
Rebecca stepped closer. You're not incompetent. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You fought through grief and PTSD and a system designed to keep families separated. You kept showing up for Emma. You carried your wife's ring for 3 years so you could give it to your daughter at the right moment. That's not incompetence. That's love. That's strength. She stopped. That's everything I've never been. You helped me get my daughter back, Daniel pointed out. That's pretty strong. I threw money at a problem, Rebecca replied. That's not strength. That's just what rich people do when they feel guilty. Real strength is what you did, showing up every day, fighting battles nobody sees, being morally larger than the people with all the power. Daniel smiled slightly. You're being too hard on yourself. You could have walked away after the airport, never thought about me again, but you didn't. You saw someone in pain and you helped. That's character. That's who you really are underneath the CEO armor. I want to be better, Rebecca whispered. I want to be the kind of person who sees people, who doesn't judge, who helps without expecting recognition. Teach me how. I can't teach you that, Daniel said gently. Nobody can. You just have to practice. Every day, looking at people and asking yourself, what pain am I not seeing? What battle are they fighting that I don't know about? What grace do they deserve that I'm not giving? You do that enough times, it becomes instinct. Rebecca nodded. I'm trying. I'm doing things differently now, at my company, in my life. Small things, learning employees' names, asking about their families, not yelling when people are slow in line. Because maybe everyone is carrying something, and I don't get to decide whose pain matters. That's good. That's really good. Emma appeared in the garage doorway. Are you staying for dinner? Dad's making pasta. It's going to be terrible. He always overcooks the noodles, but it's tradition. Sunday night pasta. We've been doing it the weeks I'm here. Rebecca looked at Daniel. Can I? You brought my daughter back to me, Daniel said. You can stay for dinner every Sunday for the rest of your life if you want. I'd like that. I'd really like that.
2 years after the airport, Rebecca gave a TED Talk. The auditorium was packed, cameras everywhere. The stage lights were too bright, and the microphone felt wrong in her hand, but she spoke anyway. 2 years ago, I yelled at a man in an airport. He was slow going through TSA, fumbling with his belt, shaking, and I was angry because I had an important flight, because my time was valuable, because I'd spent 43 years believing that efficiency mattered more than empathy. She paused, found Daniel in the audience. He'd flown in for this. Emma beside him, wearing her red jacket. Margaret and James a few seats over. That man was carrying his dead wife's jewelry, going to see the daughter he'd lost custody of because PTSD had broken him after serving 3 tours in Iraq. He had 2 hours. That's all the court would allow. 2 hours with his daughter on her birthday. And I judged him for being slow, for not optimizing his pain to fit my schedule.
The audience was silent. He saved my laptop bag on that flight, helped me even though I'd been cruel, and that moment taught me something I'd spent my whole life not learning. Everyone you meet is carrying pain you can't see. Everyone is fighting battles you don't know about, and the person you judge most harshly might be the person carrying the most weight. She looked at Daniel again. That man taught me that moral strength has nothing to do with money, that showing up matters more than succeeding, that family isn't about blood, it's about who chooses to stay when things are hard. He taught me how to be human again, and her voice cracked. I want to say thank you for being patient with me, for forgiving me when I didn't deserve it, for showing me that the most important things in life are the things we build together. Not empires, not wealth, but families, connections, grace. She ended the talk. The audience applauded. But Rebecca didn't care about applause anymore. She cared about the man in the yellow sweatshirt who was crying in the front row, who'd let her into his life, who'd taught her what strength really meant. After, in the lobby, Emma hugged Rebecca. That was good. You didn't cry too much. I cried the perfect amount, Rebecca corrected. You should come over for Sunday dinner, Emma said. Dad's trying a new pasta recipe. It's going to be horrible. You'll love it. I'll be there, Rebecca promised. And she was, every Sunday, for years, building family, building grace, building the kind of wealth that actually mattered, the kind where people knew your name and saved your laptop bag and forgave you when you snapped at them in airports. Because Rebecca Ashford had learned the hardest lesson of her life. You can't buy redemption. You can only earn it, one Sunday dinner at a time, one moment of showing up, one choice to see the pain you're not looking for. That was strength, real strength, the kind Daniel Foster had carried in his shaking hands through airport security, the kind that transcended money and power and every quarterly earnings report she'd ever filed. And Rebecca finally understood.
If this story touched your soul, you've experienced the power of Becca's stories. Subscribe for powerful daily narratives about the pain people carry silently, the judgments we make too quickly, the veterans fighting battles we don't see, and the grace of families built from forgiveness. Comment below, when was the last time you judged someone without knowing their story? What would you do differently now? Our mission is to inspire your life and brighten your day through powerful narratives of transformation and human resilience. Like, comment, and subscribe to Becca's Stories.